Arteta Out has been the most prominent and ongoing call for the removal of any Premier League manager in the modern game.
Arteta, get out!
But with Arsenal now top of the table, was this all in error? In December of 2019, Arsenal supporters embraced their new Spanish manager Mikel Arteta. Some even expected him to succeed Arsene Wenger in the summer of 2018, but that did not happen. After 18 months of instability under Unai Emery, who eventually replaced Wenger,
good evening.
Arteta promised change, with supporters backing the odd decision to hire a 37-year-old first-time manager.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Despite likes of Serie A winner Allegri being on the cards too.
Oh, jeezy pips, man.
Arteta made an impression in his first few months with his convincing discourse and impressive results. He led the squad to the FA Cup semi-final and final victories over Liverpool and Manchester City and Chelsea after football resumed in June 2020, following a 3-month hiatus due to the global pandemic. Now, not often do many careers begin with a trophy, but this takes us to the 2020 transfer window, where Arsenal's summer transfer business was perplexing to say the least. A 3-year contract with Willian, who was 32 at the time, seemed out of place given the ongoing rebuild. And ultimately, by the end of this year, #Arteta Out had reached its pinnacle just before Christmas, his first anniversary as manager. Arsenal had recently gone 7 Premier League games without a victory, with 5 of those being defeats. There were a number of warning signs that made me feel that the responsibility was too huge for him at such an early stage of his career, says Arsenal Vision podcast host Elliot Smith. For starters, the game was more defensive and conservative than expected. Arteta may have thought that he had to be realistic, but it wasn't working. I'd ask, what is your pragmatism serving if you're near relegation? He famously clashed with some of the club's key characters, most notably Mesut Ozil and Matteo Guendouzi. Coming from Manchester City, where there's an abundance of talent and money to replace it, there were questions around his man management abilities, and it was also a curious unknown if he knew how to work with difficult players rather than just those who would cooperate.
I'm not looking for advice on my team! I really like this!
To put it in some summarizing words, when you combine dressing room personality issues with a sort of joyless conservative approach to football, with results that weren't improving as a result of that pragmatic football, then some head-scratching transfers, that was enough for the fan base to make up their mind, and this view slowly took up the majority of opinions.
He has to go, blood. He has to go, blood.
Our football was simply terrible, said Carter Speary, a US supporter. He chose Willian over Nicolas Pepe. Arteta's big signing, Thomas Partey, was a flop. Because the team lacked creativity, it was easy to think, I know he's nearing the end of his career, but Ozil is getting paid to remain at home and play Fortnite, so why not use him? Arsenal were 15th in the Premier League before hosting Chelsea on Boxing Day 2020. If a poor performance was to follow that night, many supporters thought that Arteta should be sacked. Without Willian, Arteta fielded an intriguing lineup of Bukayo Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe and Gabriel Martinelli, all behind Alexandre Lacazette, which ultimately led Arsenal to come back and win the game 3-1. Whether intentional or unplanned, academy product Smith-Rowe provided fluency, and the attacking drive as a number 10 of Martin Odegaard, who was signed on loan, came next. Arteta's Arsenal was slowly growing. The Europa League semi-finals defeat against Emery's Villarreal in the spring of 2021 was another moment that saw that familiar hashtag trending on social media.
These 3 games was going to tell me everything I know about Mikel. Fuck off!
Arteta's decision to play xhaka at left back and Smith-Rowe as a false 9 were very questionable, and to go out of the cup against Emery, who he'd replaced and has a much less expensively acquired squad, was an extremely hard pill to swallow. With the second 8th place finish in a row, the fan base were dissatisfied. Arsenal lost their first 3 league games last season after spending heavily in the summer, inciting more pitchforks, although their eventual return to form won back the support of many fans. The spat between the Spaniard manager and captain Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang rekindled old wounds. Arteta may have given up another star for the sake of culture.
This is football heritage.
It is said that harmful cultures can never triumph. To win, though, talent is required. One would believe that a manager must always strike at a balance between creating a positive culture and finding ways to integrate and convince the tougher characters to buy in. On another note, Arteta has yet to establish himself as a capable manager in European competition. It'll be interesting to observe how he manages the task if Arsenal qualify for the Champions League next season, given that the Gunners haven't participated in the competition since 2016. With Arsenal top of the league, it's looking more and more likely that those that jumped on the Arteta Out train are being proven wrong, whereas those who were more patient, including those who run the club, were in the right. Although Arteta was rightfully chastised as errors had occurred, it is now over 3 years later and Arsenal may essentially have a new manager. Given his initial experience, it is easy to say that Arteta has improved greatly.